came out yesterday. So these are the pound for pound rankings. Number 1 Alexander Volkanovski, number 2 Islam Makhachev. So Alexander is still number 1 even though he lost to Islam, and so Alexander has a record of 25-2, and this 2 was actually 1, and he lost this past weekend to Islam. So I can't figure out how you can lose to the number 2 guy and still remain number 1. They say you have to beat the man to be the man, and Islam actually won a unanimous decision. So it was not like he won a very close or something. I had Islam winning rounds 1, rounds 2, round 2 and round 4. So 48-47 for Islam. And you can also argue about round 3 because it was a close round. So if you give Islam round 3, it would have been 49-46. One judge actually gave it 49-46 to Islam, the other two gave it 48-47 to Islam. But all of them thought that Islam won the fight. But still, we see the pound for pound rankings, and Islam is still number 2 and Volk is number 1. So I'm not sure what happened. And a lot of people are saying, look, Volkanovski is a smaller fighter, he fights at 145, Islam fights at 155, so maybe because Volkanovski gave Islam his toughest fight, and I do agree it was the toughest fight of Islam's career. So because Volkanovski gave him such a hard fight, he should remain at the number 1. But I don't think the pound for pound rankings are made in such a way. If the number 2 guy beats the number 1 guy, he should become the number 1. That is how every ranking works. That is how the pound for pound ranking works. And it's not like we should give Volkanovski a consolation medal for losing the fight. You took the fight believing that you can win, you lost. Now you have to pay for it by giving your number 1 spot. And also in the lead up of the fight, Volkanovski said pound for pound on the line, lightweight belt on the line. So I guess the pound for pound was never on the line really, only the lightweight belt was on the line. So I don't know how it works. Islam, even though he beat Volkanovski, he is still number 2 in the rankings. And this got me thinking, about maybe the UFC or these MMA organizations are maybe biased towards the Russian fighters. So I thought of this fight immediately. So Peter Yan versus Sean O'Malley. So Sean O'Malley getting his hand raised, even though a lot of people thought that Peter won the fight. So Peter Yan is also a Russian fighter, and this fight was clearly a robbery, much bigger than, I think, if you call the Alexander Volkanovski versus Islam Makhachev fight a robbery, you will still agree that this fight right here, this guy getting his hand raised is a much bigger robbery than Islam versus Alexander. So we just saw this happen last year with Peter Yan, where everybody in his corner was shocked. He was himself very shocked, and this guy is very happy because he just beat the number 1 guy. Look at this Daniel Cormier's expression. Even this guy is very shocked. So this is one case, and another one is, I'm sure you guys remember this, Jan versus Ankalaev. So this was, I had Ankalaev winning and a lot of people had Ankalaev winning, but the fight was a draw. And even though Jan hurt Ankalaev's leg, and it looked like Jan might be able to finish Ankalaev because of the damage that he had done by throwing leg kicks, but still Ankalaev survived. And in my opinion, when I was watching the fight, I scored it for Ankalaev. But in the end, this fight was also deemed a draw, so nobody became the champion, even though the light heavyweight interim champion belt should be on this guy's waist, but we didn't get to see that. So again, a case of robbery for me. And Ankalaev is also a Russian fighter. So this happened. Then now we are saying that Islam is winning fights, but he's still not number 1, even though he beat the number 1 guy, and the number 1 guy himself said that the pound for pound is on the line. So I don't know how it works. Next up, we see who I was actually searching who makes these stupid pound for pound rankings, and it says that these were introduced in 2013 and generated by a voting panel made up of media members. So, by media members, I think these people are like Preto Kamoto and all those guys, not Ariel Hirwani, because Dana White will not allow that. So, really want to know who are these media members who gave Islam number 2 and Volk number 1. In my opinion, Islam is number 1 and Volk is number 2 pound for pound right now. So Islam is number 1 and Volk is number 2. And I saw these MMA fighting, their pound for pound rankings, and they actually have Islam at number 1. So kudos to these guys. I know Ariel runs this, and I'm not a big Ariel fan, but because he did this, I maybe like him a little bit more now. And Alexander is Volkanovski. Alexander is number 2, so he moved down a slot, and Islam moved up a slot. So yeah, these rankings are better than what the UFC offers, which is made by these so-called media members. I really want to know who these guys are and what they thought, especially when the UFC did the build-up saying that the pound for pound number 1 is on the line. So if you don't want to give the pound for pound number 1 to the winner, then why did you say that? So yeah, a lot of biased things, and also biased against Russian fighters, Peter Yan, Magomed Ankalaev, Islam Makhachev. Maybe in the future Chimaev will lose a decision to Colby. So a lot of I'm seeing some biasness towards the American or non-Russian fighters, and these guys are having a hard time in the UFC. So yeah, these are my thoughts on number 1 pound for pound rankings. I believe Islam is number 1 and Volk is number 2. Let me know what you feel in the comments below. That's it.